conversation today about what's going on with Israel and Palestine. Let's not forget there are human beings that aren't terrorists on both. You know what I'm saying? They're human beings mired in this horror right now. And I'm not gonna walk away from that. Even the notion of what a terrorist is has been shaped by Hollywood and the propaganda promoted in this country and beyond, right? To the point now when you see somebody who's Muslim, the automatic, right, is a Muslim's more inclined to be a terrorist. But if you live in this country, you know the truth. You're more inclined to have a domestic situation, than you will that. And we can't demonize a billion people because of the actions of a few. And at the same time, we must demonize the few that are making life untenable. 866-801-8255. So I want to have a different conversation than what I'm hearing on so many outlets, because everybody wants to be right and nobody has the answers. And we need to start pulling the thread on this sweater that's holding it together so that we can get to the naked truth, the butt-ass naked truth, which is we're all people trying to be on this globe together, on this hot-ass ball together. And we have to find a way to see ourselves in each other, or it will not continue. We're going to constantly be at each other's throat. And war only benefits the powerful. So nobody should be here hoping, America's got to come and do, like all of this war. And America, if we're being honest, hasn't won a war since, did we win Korea? Was that a victory? I'm trying to go back. World War II, maybe, was the last time America, Vietnam didn't end in a victory. So I guess World War II might be the last time America won. But war should not be the answer right now. And let me be 100% clear. If Israel falls, so does America. So all of y'all hoping for that to happen. Do you live here? It's not easy, right? It's not an easy conversation. Do you live in America? Do you like all of the things that you like, your gas and all of the things? You think that if Israel falls, that's going to be okay for us? And I say us because I have an American passport. So it's not, to me, I don't think there are too many people equipped to really have this conversation today. And I know I'm not. So I'm gonna stay in my lane because I'm not a student of this kind of history. I don't know, Kevin. I know you've traveled. Have you been to these places? I saw Cory Booker. He was there when it's I don't trust you either to give us what's going on. Oh, this is a lot. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you asked that question. A group of us had been invited just a couple of weeks ago to go to Israel, to visit Israel and Palestine in the first part of 2024. And that's obviously up in the air now with what's happening. It would be my first trip there. And but I've actually been talking on the phones. I've been talking to folks who are there in the Middle East. I've been having conversations. Listen, you and I both grew up in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. We have many friends, colleagues who are Jewish, and so I've been having private conversations with folks. There's a wide range of thoughts and feelings. Obviously, people are scared from all angles. People are angry from all angles. And what you said at the top of the show, I agree with, I echo, which is I want peace in this world. I don't know, no matter who it is. I don't want to see anyone dying, no matter what the color of their skin, their gender identity, their spiritual or religious belief system. None of that should be happening because of who people are. And war, as you said, as Marvin Gaye said on the What's Going On album, that landmark album is never the answer, because if we know anything about the Middle East, this has been decades and decades of this cycle, and it's just like this decades and decades of, Bloods and Crips in America, or, people, various backgrounds fighting each other here in different ways, and violence has never been the solution. The goal should be peace, but we got to figure this out. And people got to be willing to sit down with each other, no matter who they are on the planet. 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, was Ukraine being invaded by Russia. Now we have this going on with this deep situation that suddenly has popped off yet again in the Middle East.
And for all of those Bible students who think that this is the beginning of the end, I promise you, you don't want that to be ushered in. Everybody waiting for Jesus to come back. I promise you, it says it's written, but for the days will be cut short because the pain would be too great, right? So for the people and those of you thinking you're getting raptured, you probably are not. 866-801-8255. So if suffering is the way that you are looking forward to the end of the world or Jesus coming back, and I'm saying that because I know that there is a whole swath of people, and I'm watching these so-called Christians who hate everybody, calling for America to obliterate in Israel, supporting Israel. A lot of these so-called evangelical Christians support Israel because they want to usher in because of their reading of the Bible, the second coming of Jesus, because they feel like they're the ones that are going to go to victory. And it's not. Y'all doing too much. These are people. These are people. And when we talk about the Gaza Strip, we're talking about probably one of the worst ghettos any of us could imagine in terms of the packing in of human beings with the very, very limited resources that they have there. And when you talk about, all of the bombing, so let me tell you what happened. Videos have shown it. And again, I'm very cautious about the media that I consume because there's a point of view. There's a point of view that we're not getting all sides of this, but I'll say less. Videos show the horror on the ground, including this attack at the music festival. Again, imagine yourself going to see Beyonce outside and bombs are dropping while you're enjoying, her putting everybody on pause or on mute or whatever, or you're going to see Taylor Swift or anybody that you like right now. There's a whole music festival with Kendrick Lamar and Janet Jackson. Imagine that's outside and a whole bomb hits. It's like what was the Pulse nightclub? You're enjoying yourself. And not only do they I think almost 300 people, and there's a lot of people missing, but then they start snatching folk, right? So there's videos of people being snatched up. And I imagine they're snatching folk and taking them hostage because when the retaliation comes, they're almost like human shields, right? I imagine that too. So I'm seeing, young girls, and I'm seeing a lot of men. And so I'm immediately thinking there's going to be some horrors, if not more death. More than 100 people were taken hostage. Israel's Minister of Defense said he ordered a complete siege of the Gaza. They cut off electricity. I saw wells being cemented in, so there's no water, no electricity, no food, no fuel. So they're completely taking this action. This comes as Israel pounded the Gaza with airstrikes and formally declared war on Hamas on Sunday. More than 550 Palestinians have also been killed in this. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, medical care has been complicated, of course, with no power. And at least 9 U.S. citizens are among those who died in the attack on Israel by Hamas. And I think they are taking credit. There are some intimations that Iran is involved in this. And New York Times, I'm gone through different things, including Financial Times. I want to see how it's being covered, because this is what you do when you're responsible. You can't just watch Fox or CNN all day and get your news, because they have a point of view, and their point of view is having you on edge so that they can make money. The New York Times wrote this: Saturday will be remembered as one of the most devastating days. This is in the op-ed. The events were all too reminiscent of an attack 50 years ago on the morning of Yom Kippur, which is and this is a high holy season. This was for the Jewish holidays, those who practice. That was October 1973. Israel was attacked by a coordinated Arab coalition, triggered a brutal 3-week war. The country survived only because of the huge sacrifice of its young men and women, and it traumatized an entire generation. So people from 1973 remember that. I actually remember that. Kevin Powell is here. I remember it. I remember it because I believe Jimmy Carter brokered peace between Anwar Sadat and do you remember this? And they won a peace prize.
That was 1979. That was 1979.
Menachem Begin.
Yeah.
And this was the culmination of that years later. And I remember it being something, right? And so I'm thinking about the generations, just like we were talking about Columbus. The folk that were lynched in New Orleans, they got a story to tell, those Italians, that then pushed and propelled generations after generations. We're still talking about enslavement. None of us were enslaved, but it carries with us epigenetically, but also through our generational storytelling, right? And then we get to see it play out in our neighborhoods, the vestiges of all of the horrors. It's like history rhymes. It keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. So the Financial Times' headline was: Israel declares complete siege on Gaza. And then it talks about this is what they wrote. Israel has ordered a complete siege of Gaza and mobilized 300,000 reservists 2 days after an unprecedented attack on Hamas by Hamas. You should know this. Everybody in Israel has to be in the military, give 2 years of service,
Yes,
I believe, when they turn
that's
18.
correct.
So
Yeah.
everybody, they can mobilize 300,000 reservists like that. I don't think America has the ability to do that confidently, even though I know we have our own military. But Israel's military said on Monday it is moving to the offensive after regaining control of territories neighboring the Palestine enclave. And then there's a quote from Yoav Gallant that there will be no electricity, food, or fuel delivered to Gaza. We are fighting barbaric terrorists and will respond accordingly. And then it goes on. This is Financial Times. I invite everyone to go, and they're talking about Qatar and how they're in talks with Israel to secure a deal with Hamas. Hamas was accused again of being in league with Iran. They've denied that. But one official U.S. intelligence said the sophistication and the complexity of the attack seems beyond what Hamas could do on its own. This is according to Ali Baraka, a senior Hamas official claimed that Iran has nothing to do with it. So there's a lot going on and it's developing. And I think people who don't know what the hell they're talking about should be quiet. You don't need to have an opinion about this if you don't know for sure. Let's just give the news and let people arrive at their own conclusion. Where were you on Saturday when you heard about it, and how is it resonating?
My heart dropped. My heart dropped. And the group that there's a text thread that I'm on of us who are planning. We literally just did our paperwork to go to Israel in the next few months. Literally just did our paperwork to go to Israel. And we, in full disclosure, it was there's a progressive Jewish group that was going to be bringing us, and still may happen, God willing, in 2024, to meet to go to Israel and to Palestine. And we were going to be, the plan was for us to be sitting down and talking with folks who are Israeli and Palestinian, because it was a fact-finding mission for us, a peace and understanding mission, and for us and it also was a way to talk about Black Jewish relationships, given all that's happened in the last couple of years with comments from Kyrie Irving and Kanye West and other folks. And so I'm looking forward to it. I pray that it still happens. So, as soon as that happened, we all started exchanging information about what was happening in the Middle East. I reached out to one of my friends who's American, who actually is living there, but luckily he's out of town right now, out of the country right now, he and his partner. And so they're not in the middle of any kind of threat of bombs and stuff hitting where they live. So I was concerned. I'm concerned about people that I know over there. And again, I know people who are Jewish and Muslim. I know people who are Israeli and Palestinian. I mean, because I've always made it a point, as you talked about in this show, to talk with and listen to and communicate and relate to all kinds of people, and try to see the humanity in all people, and try to figure out ways that we can bring people together, as opposed to perpetuating divisions and hatred and violence. So, I'm deeply concerned as an activist, as a human and civil rights activist. I'm concerned about all of it, and what's going to happen, So we will see. That's all we can say. And as you said, prayers, meditations, yes, but and to people saying ignorant stuff about, these beginning and final days. I mean, you and I have also heard that since we were children as well. You know what I mean? When does that ever end?
Yes.
It's like, and we got to be very careful there, because some of the people who say stuff like that are also the same people who have said some very foul stuff about Jewish folks being, the killers of Christ and all kinds of things. Like, I mean, just you hear all kinds of ignorant stuff that's not rooted, as you said, in real facts and real thorough research and cross-examining stuff. People just making stuff up as they go along.
Or believe what they believe. But here's my question for everyone who wants to demonize whole groups, as a group that is demonized, as a member of a group that is demonized and looked at as lazy and all of these things. It's a daily fight, to make sure that you can tune that out. But people who want to put all people in a category and then use them as a proxy for what's happening, what is your responsibility to help humanity, right? So I'm always going to turn it back around. It feels good. Maybe it's cathartic to put the blame on a whole group and say they're the reason why X, Y, and Z fill in the blank. It obviously resonated with folk in Germany in the 1930s, and the folk in the United States who also sent people back to their deaths and who also helped fund and give them the blueprint in the Jim Crow laws for the Nuremberg laws. So it obviously feels good to demonize groups of people. right, for a certain group, because then you don't have a responsibility for yourself as a human being to do better, to be better, to contribute something good, right? There's no responsibility on you if you can put the blame for why the conditions are the way they are on other people.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I run my fingers through her hair, and she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you love's thing